Greetings, YouTube. This is Fragments of Memory once again. You also know me as the Armchair Philosopher. I was watching Fox News or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, and it was Sean Hannity's program. And on Sean Hannity's program, you had Angela McGlowan, a politician, black conservative. There was another gentleman in the middle. He was a white gentleman, more liberal, and then you had a black gentleman on the other end who was more conservative. I think he was a retired athlete. I don't even know his name, but apparently he's still doing. He's an anchor man of some sort. Well, anyway, this they were all talking about the economic downturn that this country is experiencing and how President Barack Obama is, well, so-called ruining our country. And one of the things that Miss McGlone was talking about was how the left, or she accuses the left of trying to create a class war. And of course, the inevitable subject of race came up, where she pointed out that many people see the Republican Party as the white country club party. And of course, these white people are holding you down, black person, and you can't do anything about yourself. You can't do anything to change the situation in your life. That's basically what she believes the left is doing, and how the left is generating this sort of class war because we don't want the rich to keep having to foot the bill for all the poor people and all the so-called entitlement programs that are out here. Now, I'm of the opinion that, number one, as long as there are haves and have-nots, there's going to be friction, and that gap is widening as they talk about the shutdown of the middle class, or the meltdown of the decline of the middle class. So you have and just like I've heard in the country of Mexico. Now I don't know, I've never been, but I've been told that Mexico has this thing where it's extreme wealth and then extreme poverty all in the same place. So the dichotomy is there of the poor and the rich, and there's always been the poor and the rich. And there's always been the argument of the poor and the rich. And Miss McGlowan fails to at least acknowledge that certain people are born with certain advantages or are within situations where they have advantage. Where if my daddy's a lawyer and my mom's a doctor and they sit on boards and committees, they can help me get my foot in the door. Well, if my mama flip burgers at McDonald's, or my father sweep floors, or let's say I come from a single parent household, I might not have the same opportunity as the other person. Or I might not even know about what's going on because I'm in a certain area where that information may not get there. In addition to that, yes, I'll agree that there are people that have come up from low base circumstances and have risen to great heights. And I know people, I've heard of stories where people were started off good and there was a decline in their lives. So I'm not going to disagree with you in that regard. Where I take issue with this, she acts like this is some tool of the left or some socialist thing. Yes, those things have been there. But if you really think about it, think about all the corporate CEOs that cheat the company out of money and still walk away with the money, while the person that was working on the assembly line, or the person that was working here, no longer has a job and has no option to do anything else. And I think personally, we're going to be creating a new criminal class. I foresee, based on what people are talking about, as far as the economics is concerned in this country, we might be creating a criminal class. Will be with those that have, and then those that don't have. And of course, those that don't have may be subject to the penalties of our society. And many times when you are poor, you may resort to crime and illegal activities to survive. I'm not saying that everyone does this. Many people are honest and play by the rules, but there are many who don't. There are many who, if they're in a desperate situation, they may lead them to do desperate things, making them into criminals or vagabonds. And usually, what do we do to the homeless and the poor? They're on the fringes of society. And yes, there are programs to help. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that that person is going to get that help. So I'm not necessarily making an advocacy for government interference or anything like that. I'm really just bringing to light the short sightedness of this particular politician, of just the conservative side. Yes, do all the work you can. However, in many respects, I think that if you do not come from a certain background, if you do not come from a certain group or you don't know the right people, you're set up to fail. Or you're set up to catch a lot of go through a lot of drama just to live your life. I'm not saying you have to go roll in a mansion. Oh, and one other thing. If you're black and conservative, I have nothing against that. Just stop going on Sean Hannity's TV show, trying to castigate and belittle and criticize and lambast other blacks in America. Don't go on Bill O'Reilly's show. Don't sit around palling around with Laura Ingraham or Ann Coulter or something like that. If you're conservative, just be conservative. And in addition to that, go out and if you really are serious about helping black people better their situations in America, and this is just a side note, go to those people and explain to them what the deal is. Don't get on television with Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and say, or on Rush Limbaugh's radio show and say, stop being a victim. Don't involve them in the black community's business. Now, I'm not going to let anyone off the hook who doesn't attempt to eke out a better way for themselves in this life. However, I do realize that if you come from certain backgrounds, you might have some things working against you. And many people have risen from that. But don't try to crucify this person that may not be doing well as this other person. I think that fosters things like elitism. And as long as there's the haves and the have-nots, you have the elite versus the populist. So that's something else to think about, that the class war is not something that came out of communist Russia or come from France. So that's just something really to think about. Take it easy. Have a good one.